Where did Cliff go?
Yeah. Yep,
So we've got a full house.
I think so. Cliff will be right back.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, make sure I get everybody that's
All right.
okay. Or any staff member. All righty. He went to the restroom.
Speak of the devil.
You ready?
Yep, let's get started.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start the meeting out with public comment. Is there any public comment this morning? Nope. Okay. We will go to the Executive Director's report. Georgiana, good morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. In your agenda package, you have the draft governing board meeting minutes from October 9th. You also have an Enhancing Crossing Safety Grant newsletter that kind of lets you know where we are on that grant process. In the process, and also the TPO project status and updates. So any projects that the TPO is working on internally, there is a status of that. Also, Zoe will be handing out a Department of State required minority form. And so the requirement is that the TPO provide its committee makeup or membership. And this is something that we have to submit to the state every year. And so if you wouldn't mind filling that out, either give it back to Zoe, one of the other TPO staff members, or there's also a box outside that you can put it in. And so since this is information that we are required to do, we would like to make sure that we actually get it correct. Also, wanted to give you the latest information on our Vision Zero crash data slide. You know, we show this every month to kind of keep it forefront on where we are. This crash data was pulled on Wednesday, November 19th from Signal 4 and Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. Crash fatalities in 2024, as you know, we had 82. Crash fatalities year to date for this year is 70. And the crash fatalities since the last TPO governing board meeting, which was October the 9th, is 15. So these are just a couple of the news stories highlighted. Sunday, October the 12th, a 61-year-old motorcyclist from Melbourne killed in a hit-and-run crash at US 1 and Orbiter Court and MEMS. Wednesday, October 29th, a 70-year-old bicyclist struck killed in a hit-and-run crash at O'Galley Boulevard and Highland Avenue. And then Saturday, November 15th, 33-year-old Port St. Lucie man was killed during a 5-car pileup on I-95 near Mims, just south of State Road 46. And a 27-year-old off-duty paramedic was struck and critically injured after attempting to help motorists. So she died 3 days later on November the 18th. So as 2025 comes to a close, and we take stock in the amount of traffic fatalities that occurred, we also want to remember that a fatal crash impacts more than the victim. So we show this every month to kind of keep it up front and center to kind of let everyone know why we do what we do. And I want to end on a very sad but a more positive note, at least for Devin, because Devin Swanson from Brevard County is retiring. And we have a certificate of appreciation for him. And I'm going to read it, and then perhaps we can get a picture after the meeting. So this is presented in honor of his dedicated years of service in traffic operations and his unwavering partnership with the Space Coast TPO. Your collaboration and commitment have played a vital role in advancing many of the TPO's programs, initiatives, and committees, including the Transportation Subcommittee, Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trail
Governing committees. And I just want to thank Georgiana, Laura, all the TPO staff, and I want to remember Bob Com. He was here when I started, and I mean, when I first came in 1990, he was there. So him and Sue Hahn both got me involved, and I'm just glad that Henry Minaboo and Dick Thompson gave me the opportunity in the late 90s, early 2000s to be appointed to this board. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your service. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Georgiana. Congratulations, Devin, for all your service. Next up is our consent agenda. We have 4 items today. The first item is the Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee meeting minutes from October 6th, they're on page 12. Also, number 2 is the 2026 meeting calendar. That can be found on page 21. Number 3 is the 2026 through 2028, the Governing Board Strategic Plan. And the last item on the consent agenda is Work Order 26-22, K as in Kilo, School Routes Analysis and Grant Development Support. I would look for a motion from the TAC for approval. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I move.
Looks like we have a-
We both second.
Second from Devin.
Okay, and from the CAC, do we have a motion, please? Motion from Laura, do we have a second? Second from Peter. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, consent agenda passes unanimously. Next up today is the action items, and the first one is the election of officers. Good morning, Zoe.
Okay, sorry about my voice. All right, I will be conducting the election of TAC and CAC Chair and Vice Chair. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to kind of explain what the roles are, the rules for the election process, and then we will go forward. So the nominations, I'm going to open the floor to nominations one position at a time. Nominations do not need a second. You may self-nominate if you wish to be considered. Alternates cannot nominate anyone if their member is present, because if their voting member is present, that is considered a motion. If only one candidate is nominated, they will be declared elected by acclamation, and we will need a motion and a second to approve that. And then multiple nominations will lead to a vote by a show of hands or a simple majority. So I will call for the nominations. If I hear, none other, they will close. After the nominations have been made, we will have a vote if needed, and then I will have the chair ask for a motion and a second. Okay. So in accordance with our policies, the TAC and CAC will elect a chair and vice chair at the last meeting of the calendar year. They will serve for a period of 1 year, starting on January 1st until December 31st, or until a successor is elected. The chair shall call and preside at all meetings. The vice chair shall serve as the chair in their absence. In the absence of a chair and a vice chair, the committee may appoint an official member in attendance to chair that particular meeting. So our current, we'll start with the TAC. Our chair is currently Cliff Graham with the Melbourne Orlando Airport Authority. He has told me that he would like to retain his seat. I will open the floor to nominations.
Make a motion to nominate Cliff.
Okay, Devin. All right, Devin has nominated Cliff Graham. Any other nominations? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close those nominations. Since there's only one, he will be declared elected by acclamation, but I will have him ask for a motion in a second from the TAC. So a motion?
Look for a motion from the TAC.
Adam Cole, District 1.
We're doing the TAC right now.
TAC.
Okay. I saw Debbie first, but I'll do you as a second. All right. And with that, Cliff Graham will serve another year as the chair for the TAC.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we'll move on to vice chairs, currently held by Steve Zabo with Space Florida. I will open the floor to any nominations.
Make a motion to have Steve Zabo remain as vice chair.
All right, Robert Musser has made a motion to nominate Steve for the chair. Any other nominations? Okay, go ahead and close, and if we could have a motion in a second.
From the TAC, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
Okay, Debbie
Debbie.
Flynn. In a
And
second.
From Devin.
Devin. All right, and with
All
that.
those signify by saying aye. Aye.
All right, congratulations, Steve and Cliff, for another year as chair and vice chair. Okay.
Next time you got to know to step back one. Everybody else.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
We will move on to the election of CAC. Currently, we will start with chair is held by Philip Weinberg of City of Palm Bay. He has mentioned interest in retaining his seat, so I will open the floor to any nominations. I saw Peter Fuskus first.
I'd like to nominate Phil Weinberg.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair? All right, seeing none, I will ask for a motion in a second to
Okay,
approve.
can I get a motion, please? Motion from Greg, second from Laura. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I do have Bill Vollmer as the chair currently. I know we emailed, are you still interested in retaining your seat, or would you like to open it up for? Open it up? Okay, any nominations for vice chair for CAC? Pete?
Yeah, Laura
Okay,
expressed interest in it, so I'd like to nominate her.
Pete has nominated Laura Witten of Titusville. Any other nominations? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close nominations, and I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Okay, can I get a motion to elect Laura as vice chair, please?
I move to elect Laura as vice chair.
Okay, motion from Eric, second from Pete. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, Laura.
Congratulations. Okay. So the next steps will just be to keep your email up to date, check your email. If you have any updates, let me know. This will be the primary communication method for meeting updates, calendar events, agenda packages. And then as the chair, as chair and vice chair, please let me know if you are not able to attend a meeting, and we will find out any substitutions accordingly. And my contact information if you need that. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Next item is Resolution 26-12, ratification of fiscal year 26 through 30, Transportation Improvement Program Amendment Number 2.
All right, this is a housekeeping item. On page 39 of your package, the Florida Department of Transportation requested an amendment to our adopted fiscal year 26 through 30 Transportation Improvement Program. to align with the department's work program. And this adds a new project that will close the median guardrail gaps on State Road 528/A1A. And the project is really part of a statewide safety initiative to improve effectiveness of guardrails on state and federal highways. And this particular project was done via an emergency TIP amendment. It could not make the October agenda package, so we processed that TIP amendment, and so we're bringing it back to the committees and the board for ratification. And so you see the project here, funds are being added to the design phase, fiscal year 2026 for $600,000. And the DOT letter is also included on page 42. So that is the TIP amendment that we are requesting approval.
Okay, thank you, Georgiana. From the TAC, any discussion, comments? Go ahead, Robert.
Two questions on this. Is this going to be added into the resurfacing, the planned resurfacing project?
That is my understanding. However, it does have like a standalone FM number, so I don't know. It's probably a goes with. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, that kind of answers my second question then,
Okay.
which was the location. So I would assume it's going to be from just to the east of Courtney to right around 401. So
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
great, thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm just curious, why were the gaps created in the first place?
Well, I believe that there on the beach line, there are areas that have no guardrail, no protection whatsoever. And a lot of times you'll see cars, kind of doing U-turns and what have you. So it's very dangerous. And so I think that it was
That's the safety component,
correct.
because people are making U-turns.
Correct. It's all tied to safety. That's my understanding. Yep.
Thank you, John, for the
And
question.
most of the area doesn't have the guide rails in it. The first phase of the resurfacing from Courtney to Industry Road added it in. So this is the second phase, and I can attest that there are a lot of people that go and cross over, especially as you get closer to the port. So
Yeah.
this is definitely a needed safety aspect.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, I would look for a motion from the TAC for approval. Deborah and Robert, second.
And from the CAC, can I get a motion, please? Motion from Laura. Do we have a second? Second from Greg. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Item passes. Next up is Resolution 26-13, fiscal year 26 through 30, Transportation Improvement Program Amendment Number 3.
All right, another housekeeping item. The letter from the DOT begins on page 47 and 49. This amendment adds 2 new projects to the TIP. The first 2 projects were granted a legislative appropriation to fund the design and the construction. The City of Melbourne received an appropriation for the downtown core streetscape. It's for design funding in fiscal year 26 for $3.1 million. And then Brevard County received an appropriation for West Central Avenue Bridge replacement construction in fiscal year 26 for $2.5 million. And then the third TIP amendment is for the St. John's Heritage Parkway Ellis Road widening, and it's to add the a railroad and utility phase. This is probably to begin the utility relocation, fiscal year 26, and that's for $2.1 million. So those are the 3 new projects being added has been added to the DOT work program, and we need to make sure that they're incorporated into the transportation improvement program. So we are looking for approval of those 3 projects.
Thank you, Georgiana. Any discussion on these 3 projects? Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, Georgiana, is that a $3 million appropriation, or is it a lesser number than that?
The information that the department gave us, DOT, is $3,131,486. And Todd, if you look at page 49, it lists the FM number, the project number, and the amount. It's two different fund codes, and it equals the 3.1 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, if not, I would look for a motion from the TAC for approval. Motion by Deborah, second by Todd.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion, please? Motion from Yvonne. Do we have a second? Second from Peter. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Item passes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next item. Review of FDOT and Florida Turnpike Enterprise Tentative 5-Year Work Program for fiscal year 27 through 31. It can be found on page 51 in your packet.
All right. As Kathy is coming up, I just want to set this up a little bit for especially any new members that have not been through this process. The DOT Tentative Work Program and the Florida Turnpike Work Program is part, and a very important part, of the TPO's year-long process of the development of our Transportation Improvement Program. So it began in July of 2025 when you adopted our list of project priorities. And we turned that list over to the DOT, and it's used for the development of the draft tentative work program. So we have a two-part presentation. Kathy's going to present for DOT District 5, and then we'll have the Turnpike. And should the draft tentative work program be endorsed by the board, the final work program will be submitted to the governor and the state legislature to be adopted in the 2026 legislative session, which begins in January. And of course, then we start the process all over again. So Kathy, I will hand it over to you.
Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Kathy Alexander Corbin, and yes, I'm Program Management Administrator, District 5. It's that time of the year where we come and present the tentative work program to all of our partners. And what we're talking about here is fiscal years 27 through fiscal year 31. So FDOT's work program is a needs-based plan that ensures the development and maintenance of the Florida's transportation infrastructure, and it's planned for the upcoming 5-year period. Again, this is an annual process, like Georgiana mentioned, and what it reflects is the changes that happen over a year in terms of funding, priorities, and project progress. Each district develops their tentative work program in coordination with their local partners and stakeholders, and it's based on the following state investment priorities. This includes safety programs, system preservation maintenance objectives, such as our state-maintained bridges, the pavement conditions of our state highways, as well as any maintenance and operations of the same, as well as any transportation system capacity, which includes our statutory requirements for public transportation, such as aviation, transit, rail, ports, space, and the strategic intermodal systems, and other state highways and public transportation systems. So like we mentioned, legislature this year begins earlier. It begins in January, which means that we are in a compressed, accelerated tentative work program. Typically, we have about 4 or 5 months to put this together starting in July. Because legislation starts in January of this upcoming year, we had to have our tentative work program finalized and balanced by early October. We held our virtual public hearing the week of October 20th to the 24th, and we received comments, public comments on our work program until November 7th, and all those comments are going to be included in the public record for the tentative work program. The website is still available. We're still taking comments. If there's an opportunity you want to review either reports for the county, which I see are in the packets, or you wanted to see any location specifically off the GIS map tool, feel free to do so. Again, the comment receipt is still available, and we'll review and respond to comments until the end of the year. So we did our work program public hearing. We received the comments. We're now in December. Each of the districts submits their tentative work program to our executive office. Our state secretary will review that along with the executive team. Then it'll go to the Florida Transportation Commission for review. This is to ensure that all of the district's work programs are aligned with the state priorities and the needs. The plans across the state are then compiled to become the statewide tentative work program. Then it is submitted to the legislature and the governor's office in January. It'll go through financial, judiciary, and legal reviews. Ultimately, budget gets approved in May, June timeframe, and the work program is adopted next July 1st of the following year. What you're seeing here are some of those key activities of the development of the tentative work program. So we have to develop a 5-year work program that meets targets and also meets various program areas, as well as has to be balanced against the available financial resources, and this would be our federal and state funds. Each year it changes a little bit with what supports our work program based on the decisions that come out of legislature or our revenue estimating conferences that occur during the summer. And what we're seeing this year is very similar to the last couple of years, where we have a very conservative outlook of what our economic horizon looks like. Overall, the revenues for the period ending in 2031, which is the 5th year of our upcoming tentative, were reduced by $328.7 million. The state funds decreased due to conservative revenue projections that came out of the revenue estimating conferences. There was also some changes to reduction of the fuel tax revenues. And this is due to changing consumption patterns in motor fuel, as well as other fuels such as diesel, aviation, and off-highway fuel. And rental car surcharge projections were also reduced over this 5-year period. Because we do still have a lot of people coming to Central Florida, we did have an uptick in our allocation formula. This is part population as well as revenue for gas. And so we did have a slight increase in that allocation number for the region. Each year, again, we look at the decisions, the policies, and the statute changes that could affect a tentative work program. And during this legislative session, we did have the House Bill 7031, which reduced the revenues to the department by $780 million through fiscal year 31. This bill repealed the aviation fuel tax, delayed the implementation of natural gas fuel tax, and reduced the cap on the documentary stamp tax proceeds that make it to the departments by a total of $106 million per year. We also look at our system statewide. This is our state highway systems for maintenance and operations and safety, and we have to redistribute some of those funds that we have allocated for these program areas to make sure that our systems remain safe for our transiting public. And we did have several areas that required some redistribution of funding, such as our bridges, as well as our intelligent ITS, as well as traffic operations systems. So that also affected some of the funding that was available so that we can maintain our state highways. And then lastly, we have economic variables, very similar to what we have seen in the last few years, however, not as drastic, which is really good. What you're seeing here on the bottom are our top 3 most used groups, item cost groups throughout the district. We're talking about earthwork, asphalt, and base. Our base concrete. This represents multiple items. And what you're seeing on the boxes on the outside is there's still a lot of variability in terms of cost for some of these pay items, making it a little bit difficult to forecast what we're seeing in terms of what projects may cost in the near future, but we are seeing more stabilized over time. We do have blessing, you could say, in our asphalt. Asphalt is our #1 resurfacing program. It's the largest program in the work program, and we use asphalt across all of our projects, and we're really seeing a good stabilizing of costs for our asphalt pay items throughout our projects. That is good. It's driving costs down. We have a lot of competition and projects here in Central Florida, and what we're hearing from contractors is that competition is really driving the cost down for asphalt items and the material. We've also seen an increase in contractors competing for our jobs. It's gone up. So the more competition we have, the better it is for pricing. The contractors have reported to us that they have not had the hang-ups of obtaining material as they did in the past few years. So that's helping with stabilizing the cost for asphalt. So we look forward to more of that. As you can see, though, this is the representation of our lettings over the last year. And even though it is stabilized, there's still a slight uptick from one month to the other. So we still anticipate cost rising, but just not to the extreme that we saw over the last few years. So given all of these complexities and the challenges of trying to come out with a finalized and a balanced plan, we had to implement a couple principles to make sure that we maintain our projects in the work program. We wanted to make sure that safety and preservation related projects continue on the work program to be delivered and put out to the public. Second, we minimize the project impacts with strategic phasing of the top regional priorities. What this meant is that we had to take very large projects. The constant increase in prices was making it very difficult to try to maintain these projects within 1 year in terms of the cost. And so what we did is break up these projects into different phases to ensure that the projects remain within the 5 years. They'll just be delivered in different years, but the projects remained. We also preserved our ongoing executed contracts to make sure that the work continues. We haven't done this in the past. In the last couple, we did do it a few years back when we had COVID, where we really had all of our revenues reduced. But since then, we've been able to maintain our continuing services and our general engineering consultant support contracts until this year. In order to balance, we did not fully fund all of those contracts for the outer years of the work program. We did it for the first year, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and review that again in the next cycle to see what we need. These are critical to maintaining our work program and delivering the projects that are funded through the work program. And lastly, we had very limited new projects. The only thing that we added were items that were related to essential program areas. Again, we're talking about maintenance, operations, resurfacing program. We didn't have any new projects that came in from the units or from many of our partners as well, due to the limits in the funding that we have in order to balance. Here you see the total for Brevard County, and what we're talking about is over $1 billion that are represented in investments over the next 5 years. A breakdown by our typical work mixes. As you can see, clearly we have spaceport, seaport, transit, aviation, and rail. Largest component is spaceport, but it's over 64.5% for our multimodal investments. Over 18% for our preservation. This would be our resurfacing program, bridge replacement, maintenance, and operations. A little over 5% for miscellaneous. This is a catch-all. This could be your lighting components. It could be your rest area improvements. It also includes replacement or repairs of seawall along US 1. And it also has the Space Coast TPO-supported COCO multimodal station investment listed here. A little over 3% for capacity, and this is widening, enhancing our roadways. A little over 2.5% for operations. This is for intelligent transportation systems, communications and surveillance, traffic signal upgrades. Then you have a little over 2.5% for road intersection improvements, close to 2% for bike, peds, and sidewalk investments, and then slightly under 1.5% for maintenance. This would be our maintenance of agreements. A breakdown, like I mentioned, multimodal being the largest one. We wanted to ensure that we have the information so you see how much is being allocated. Clearly for spaceport, we're showing the largest amount is over 116 million. Aviation over 60 million, and that's an improvement for Brevard and Valkyria, Melbourne International Airport, Space Coast Regional Airport, Merritt Island, taxiway represents several improvements, operational improvements for our airports in the area. Seaport, $25 million in the upcoming 5 years. For transit, we have $43 million that are invested in the area, and rail, $4.8 million. Again, you have the report for the county within your packet, and it's also available online. I will not be covering everything, so I'm going to mention priority projects, important critical items to the region, as well as share any new phases or projects that were added this cycle. And then I'm going to summarize some changes that occurred from the previous adopted programming. I mentioned resurfacing program being the largest for the work program. Each year we assess the payment conditions and we introduce projects into the work program that need their pavement repaired. We have several projects. One is along US 1 State Road 5. This is from State Road 50 to the Railroad Bridge. What you see here, this is within Titusville. That is a project that will be resurfacing the roadway. And then we have several on State Road 405 in different locations, also within Titusville. These are all pavement rehabilitation projects. And then lastly, we have a state road on from Indian River Bridge to the Space Commerce Parkway. All of these follow the same schedule. They'll have design in 27, which is the first year of the upcoming tentative, and construction will occur 2 years later in 29. On the right, we have a pedestrian safety project. This was actually added to another project. This would be, it goes with, like was mentioned in reference to the median protection that we were talking about. This is in Cape Canaveral, and what we're doing is we're adding the pedestrian hybrid beacons to the roadway. It is Space Coast TPO supported and funded. What you see here is the rendering of what that's going to look like at the location. Is just south of Tyler Avenue, so that will be added and also let with the other resurfacing project, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have bridge repair and rehab project on the left. This is for State Road 401. And what they're doing here is they're providing, they're updating and rehabilitating the electrical and mechanical systems on both bridges. Things change from year to year, so occasionally it becomes necessary to defer or move out a project from its original program fiscal year due to project requirements, maybe any schedule adjustments or shifting of priorities. And what you're seeing here in the top left, this is a capital grant that was coordinated with the respective aviation authority, and this was to defer that funding to a future year. On the bottom left, we had some funding resurfacing deferrals that occurred for the rest area improvements within Brevard County. So those shifted out. And then we have, on the right, we have additional capital grant deferrals that were coordinated with the Space Coast Regional Airport for that funding in the future. Very similar, sometimes things have to be deleted, either because of an administrative change or because it's no longer needed. And what you're seeing here on the left is deleted. And there's a fuel farm construction. This was coordinated with Space Coast Regional Airport. It was aviation revenue operational improvement. It was deleted from fiscal year 27 due to reprioritization of projects. Also coordinated with the Aviation Authority. And then we had a project that moved out. That just means it went outside of the 5 years. It'll be maybe in an upcoming cycle. We have Brevard Melbourne International Airport apron construction. This was an aviation preservation project. That funding moved out from 28 to 32. So it'll be the new 5th year next cycle. We wanted to talk about some other critical projects that are pertinent to District 5, FDOT, I-95 being a vital transportation network connecting major cities and states within the eastern coast of the United States. Our project development team is looking at I-95 and developing a study. They're actually working on that already. This I-95 is also a SIS system, Strategic Interstate System, which indicates the importance for the mobility, economic development, and safety for our region, southeastern regions. You can even say entire East region. So what you can see here, they are the limits of the project. We're talking about north of 192, St. John's Heritage Parkway to State Road 519. The goals and the objective of the study is to study the interchanges, any improvements that could come out so that we can go ahead and proceed to the project development, environmental studies, and maybe any interim improvements that could come out, any short-term and long-term improvements. So this is underway for I-95. The next steps are to complete this initial phase, and then projects will be recommended for PD&E and for consideration for funding in the future.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so Kathy, this is for the future widening, just to
Correct.
make sure everyone is aware that
Yes.
the resurfacing is underway, but this is for the future 8-laning of I-95.
Correct. This is a corridor improvement for widening, but it's also looking at ultimate improvements as well as any short-term improvements that we can handle, maybe interchanges that are needed or congestion relief in current locations. This next slide is the resurfacing project. And this one is ongoing. I-95, Brevard County, significant need for resurfacing. As you can see, we have several projects in the upcoming 5 years representing improvements for the pavement for I-95. This project is currently under construction, and what they have done is they negotiated with the contractor an improvement at exit 173, which is State Road 514, Malamar Road. We understand there's significant congestion there for that exit in the southbound off-ramp where it backs up from the intersection up to the main line. So they have negotiated design supplemental on that. They'll be widening that ramp and extending the taper on that to allow more capacity for people to be able to come off of the I-95 to relieve some of that congestion. So that's already been negotiated with the contractor. They're already almost halfway through their construction schedule, so it'll be a matter of coordinating that. Our Brevard Ops Center is coordinating that with them to see when they'll be constructing that. And that concludes my presentation. Again, what you see here is the website for the tentative work program, as well as the Central Florida roads. That's for any projects that are currently underway. A lot of useful information. If you don't find it on the tentative, then you might find it on Central Florida roads. But my contact information's here also, in case there's any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Kathy, for all of that detail, and I would ask if there's any questions for Kathy. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, Catherine, tough job. Our state legislatures probably live in Texas, cutting our transportation money, and then you have to come out here and give us bad news. We know that costs are going up for road projects, and it's not a good time to cut. Well, with that said, you started talking about I-95. When I hit I-4 and start going north, or down, if I'm headed south and I hit I-4 headed south, traffic thins. Now, I know in District 5 you do Volusia County and one county north of that. Are they getting a priority on this I-95 money because of the number of traffic increases that's happening there? Or is it evenly spread through the whole corridor?
I-4 North is what we call it. That is also on our radar as a regional priority. That's also represented in the upcoming 5-year work program with funding associated for widening that and extending express lanes. Right now, they're all the priority, to be honest with you. With doing this study gives us the opportunity to dive in and learn what we need to do. Unfortunately, we didn't have a study underway already, which is why this was programmed. So I think once we get the information back from the study and identify the short-term, long-term improvements, then we'll be able to then start prioritizing the programming needed.
Okay, I gave you a seat of the pants study.
I think we all drive these roads and we all know there's
Yeah,
definitely a lot of congestion in a lot of our roadways.
When you cross I-4 going north, it's like, what the hell happened to I-95? And when you're coming south and you cross I-4 headed south, I'm glad I'm out of that mess.
Yeah, I think it will be useful, and I know we've talked about it at the department, is to come in the future and talk about what those I-95 improvements may be once there's more information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Debbie?
Go ahead, Debbie.
Sorry. Ooh, sorry. For the I-95 widening project, is the consultants working with the municipalities on possible interchange locations?
I could not tell you. I would imagine they would. I'll have to get more information from our project development team on how far along they've gone,
Okay.
And then what that coordination is going to entail.
Okay.
I would imagine they have it planned, but I can't tell you if they have done that yet. But we will find out what the status and the details.
Perfect.
Anything else for Kathy?
Oh, yeah, Kathy? I just want to add, I just want to thank DOT for the Malabar Road interchange ramp, improving that. As you know, that's been a major concern for the city of Palm Bay. We've already had one death at the interchange, and if you ever go south on I-95 and you try to get off at that interchange, it's next to impossible. So I just want to thank DOT for kind of pushing that forward. Thank you.
I'll relay the information.
Thank you.
All right, so we are asking, Mr. Chair, for the committees to endorse the work program, which we don't normally do every year, but, you know, this is a collaborative process between the department and the TPO, and we're very appreciative of all the hard work that the department has done for us, but we are asking for an endorsement. Yes, there is a part 2. If the Turnpike folks are here, there is going to be a part 2. I don't know if we want to wait and do that together. Okay.
Thank you all. Happy holidays.
It's all under one item,
Yes,
correct?
thank you.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I am James Brown. I am one of Florida Turnpike Enterprises' 2 statewide liaisons to the MPO, TPO organizations. I currently represent South Florida Districts 4 and 6. You all, as a body, used to work with Cioce Fine, who was our Central and West Florida liaison. He has since moved on, and we now have Lauren Hughes, if Lauren wants to stand up. He will be working with the Space Coast TPO going forward, so we wanted to make sure we introduced him formally.
Do you have slides?
We sent a presentation up, yeah.
I got it on page 87.
Yeah.
We did not receive those
Okay, I
slides.
can speak to, if you're in your packets and you are looking at the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise Summary of Projects. Not sure what page it would be right after
Page
the last
87.
presentation. Perfect. Here in Space Coast, for Brevard County, we have 22-mile facilities, Beachline East and Challenger Memorial Parkway. Our projects for this year's work program have to do with 2 segments on Challenger Memorial Parkway, State Road 407, which are 2 resurfacing projects. So our allocated is a little over $18 million for those 2 segments to resurface those. That is what we have for Brevard in this year's work program. We did have a slide within that presentation, which we were showcasing toll dollars at work. And what we were bringing up was an intelligent transportation systems improvement along Beachline East Expressway. That was a project which started in October of '24, and it is anticipated finish in spring of '26. That was to include dynamic messaging signs, cameras, and vehicle detection services along that facility. And that was the extent of what we had to present today for Brevard, was the 2 segments which were the resurfacing. So. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. Any questions for James?
We do apologize for that.
Yeah, no
There
worries.
have been a couple instances where our emails have went to junk mail, and so I'll go back and check that. I do
Okay, all
apologize.
right,
And
thank
we'll make sure if we do have it to send it out.
Most
If you don't
definitely.
mind sending it
I will, yeah,
again,
I
and
will.
we'll make sure the committee members have it, and we'll have it ready for the governing board on
Perfect.
Thursday.
Perfect, great.
Thank you.
Thanks again, James.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any discussion or questions about the tentative 5-year work program? If not, I would look for a motion from the TAC for approval. Debbie? And Devin?
And from the CAC, I need a motion, please. Motion from Yvonne and second from Peter Filiberto. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Item passes. Our next item, which is our last item for the action items today, is the 2025 Public Participation Plan. It can be found on page 102 in your packet.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, committee members. I'm Abby Hemingway, the Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO, and today I'm presenting the draft 2025 Public Participation Plan, what we refer to as the PPP. It's a required core work product that guides how the TPO engages the public in our transportation planning processes. So your agenda packet actually had the pretty lengthy document. Hopefully you had a chance to review it, but today we're going to kind of dig into what the PPP is, how we advertised and promoted it for public comment to our citizens, and any changes that were made to this current version versus the 2022 one. So to begin with, the PPP is updated every 3 years, and it serves as the foundation really for how we ensure transparency, accessibility, and meaningful public involvement. It outlines when, how, and with whom we communicate during the development of our plans, programs, and studies as well. And it ensures that we meet all federal and state requirements, including Title VI. Since it's updated every 3 years, you can imagine our practices evolve, hopefully, over time, and we implement new strategies to reach our desired audience, our citizens of the Space Coast. So when we're looking at changes, This update reflects a few new digital engagement practices, updated demographic profiles, some lessons learned from some of our most recent major plan updates, including the LRTP, our Long-Range Transportation Plan, and also our Transportation Improvement Program. And lastly, we also amended some sections to simplify and clarify the document for general audiences. And we're going to dig into some of these refinements as well. Oops. Oh, no, they're up here. Okay, so some of the big ones included some more accessible language, so trying to reduce that technical jargon when we talk about transportation planning to make it more simple for our citizens. Consistent public involvement expectations for each core work product. We have to be really consistent with how long can it be advertised for public comment, what does the adoption period look like as well. We also updated census data and equity considerations to make sure that we're guiding inclusive engagement. And then we also added some expanded use of digital tools such as virtual meetings, interactive platforms, and some enhanced website features. Additionally, the core works product section, really because we just recently did the LRTP, which is huge. We have evolved our practices because that one's every 5 years. So when you get to the core work product section, we really went through that with a fine-tooth comb and added in some really great expectations for each major plan and program. And lastly, we updated performance measures to reflect current ways that we evaluate effectiveness of our digital communication platforms, which have also changed, as you can imagine, over the last 3 years. All right, so when we talk about public comment methods and how we advertise, during the review period, which began on October 27th and it ends on December 11th, this upcoming Thursday, the public had multiple ways to provide comments, ensuring accessibility for all audiences, and these methods included an online public comment form. We've been doing this for every major core work product so that people can just go to the landing page and input their comment online. It's a very simple web-based form that allows our residents to submit their comment in real time. Also, they can send it directly to me via email. They can call the TPO office and provide verbal feedback or ask questions about the PPP. They could also snail mail it to us if they so wish, if they wanted to send their comment to us via mail. And also here at our meetings at the TAC, CAC, the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board, and the TPO Governing Board meetings, all of those during the review period are opportunities for them to make a public comment. And these options really reflect our commitment to providing that flexible and equitable participation for all of our community members. Okay, so to ensure that we had some broad awareness of the draft PPP out there for public comment, which is 45 days, it's our longest period for public comment for any of our core work products. We promoted the document through multiple channels, communications channels, and I want to walk you through just a couple of the different ways that we promoted. So here, up on the first slide here, through our newsletter, press release, and news features, these are just some examples of where we highlighted the draft PPP, which included our October en route newsletter and our November Get Involved Gazette. And finally, we push out a press release early this December to encourage additional engagement after that Thanksgiving holiday. We also had a feature in the Brevard County employee newsletter as well. Of course, digital engagement is all about pushing it on social media these days. So here are a few examples of the social media posts that we published on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor to announce the draft's availability for comment, and additional reminders were sent after those initial posts. When it comes to our website, we created a homepage banner that linked directly to the document. During the entire review period, we also had the PPP in our calendar section, not only as a standing calendar event that was there literally on our homepage from October to later this week, but then if you clicked on that, it had a full detailed description of the PPP. And also we had it in our news section every time that we featured it in one of our news platforms. And then when we get to the dedicated webpage for this document, we had a summary and details on how to submit feedback, including the online portal was right embedded on that homepage to make it easier for our citizens. Last thing they want to do is click to click to click to click. So we try to make it as easy as we can for them. And really all of these efforts combined helped reach our residents, partners, and stakeholders across multiple platforms so that we can maximize our participation. So what kind of comments do we get? We still have a few days, but so far we've only gotten 3 comments. Overall, the feedback received during the review period has been very supportive of the PPP's structure and the intent. And most of the comments acknowledge the clarity of the document and thoroughness. Some of the responses that we've gotten so far, this happens a lot in our core work products, is they start talking about a project or a suggestion. And so some of those comments that really related to more of roadway conditions or projects were rerouted to our partners or the correct agencies. Other comments talked about reducing, again, some technical jargon. Commenters noted that some sections still relied heavily on transportation terminology. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't get away from that. We still have to be a little bit technical. But in response, we will review those areas and add in some plain language to help there. We had a few commenters also say, suggesting that the core work products table could maybe be easier to read, but we add in some icons, make it a little bit more visually appealing. And then we also had a comment that, no major changes to the PPP, but to make sure that we evaluate it over time, because we only do update it every 3 years. We won't really know until we see some gaps. So, and sometimes that does happen where we have to make an amendment to the PPP. That happened actually during COVID when we had to and do virtual meetings. So far, very simple comments. We will be addressing a few of these, specifically the one that I have up here where they mentioned including some more plain language and visual elements. And they also mentioned some digital analytics, but that's for a separate report for the measures of effectiveness. So all in all, no major comments that will affect the PPP, the procedures, timelines, or notification requirements. And they've all been reviewed, logged, and will be incorporated as part of the final document. So with that, and of course, I'm happy to take any questions. In closing, the TAC-CAC feedback ensures that this document really reflects technical expertise, of course, and then community interest. So your recommendation today helps put the PPP move forward for adoption to the TPO Governing Board this Thursday, and staff is requesting a recommendation of approval.
Adam.
Yeah, a couple of things, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You said that the announcement phase is 45 days.
Correct.
Do you find that you get early participation, or do you get a lot of participation towards the end of that 45 days?
We typically, it comes in waves, I think, because that Thanksgiving holiday, it tends to always fall in this time frame as well, October through December. And so for a couple of weeks, people are kind of, honed in on the holidays there. I will tell you the bulk of these comments came in when we sent that early press release in early December. So I feel like towards the end, we get a little bit more engagement than in the beginning.
Okay, so then the 45 days is certainly important. Can you talk a little bit briefly in detail on page 143 or page 41? I'm sorry.
Can you tell me what that is? Sorry, I don't have the document in front of me.
The measures of effectiveness 2024 report example.
Yes. So a few years back, it's a best practice amongst some of the MPOs and TPOs to create a separate report called the Measures of Effectiveness, and it is kind of the sister report, if you will, to the PPP, but it highlights more all of our digital platforms. It's connected to analytics so that we stay consistent and see what methods of communication are working for us or against us. And so we do that annually every year, and that will actually come to this committee in February for 2025.
So follow on, I'm looking at some of the data, and I appreciate you showing 21, 22 versus 24.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I brought to this board's attention several years ago was we needed to be able to compare from the
Yes.
past and see how it shows up with the present. Do you anticipate disregarding some of these outreaches? To give you an example, electronic newsletter, target was 12. The numbers have gone down significantly over the time. Can you talk a little bit about these numbers here?
Yeah.
Rather than just having a bunch of numbers sitting in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the newsletter target has changed a little bit over the years because I can't remember the year exactly, but in the last few years, not only do we do a monthly newsletter, but now at the request of actually a committee member on the BPAC, they asked us to almost have a separate newsletter for upcoming events because our newsletters were becoming like a novel. So we use our best judgment. If we have a lot of outreach events coming up, we'll do a Get Involved Gazette, but that's always when I talk about the measures of effectiveness, and I'll say this in February, it's a fluid document. A target is a target. We don't, things can happen, COVID-19 can happen, and that takes, our in-person outreach metrics will go down. So as long as, we're making sure that we're reaching our citizens in all of those methods and not relying solely just on one, it's important. But when we come to the newsletters, 12 will most likely still be the target because we're either going to send out a monthly one or an outreach one for Get Involved.
All right, one of the things that I asked for several years ago was that you include LinkedIn, and I see that we're doing real good in that area.
Yes. Yes, I believe we launched that in, I want to say like late 2022. So we'll probably see those metrics go up. It's really become a platform for the TPO. It's a lot of our partners and stakeholders are there, but it's been a great place for engagement for even programs and projects as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay, if not, I would look for a motion from the TAC to approve the 2025 Public Participation Plan. Debbie? And a second from Devin.
And from the CAC, we have a motion, please. Motion from Laura and second from Peter Fuskis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Next up on our agenda is the presentations section, and the first presentation is Space Florida Overview. We found on page 152 in your packet.
Good morning. I think most of you all know me. My name is Steve Szabo. I'm Vice President of Spaceport Planning and Development for Space Florida. I've been a member of the TAC, I think it's going on 12 years now. And I was just kind of reflecting back on where we were 12 years to where we are now. That was at the end of the shuttle program. And the state took a proactive approach in helping solidify the Cape Canaveral Spaceport as the world's premier spaceport. And I think we're seeing all the great activity that's occurring there. We not only launch rockets from here in Florida, but we also are now, companies are manufacturing rockets, which never happened before. We have companies building satellites now. So a lot has changed in the past 12 years, and very much appreciative of the state's involvement, the Space Coast TPO's involvement, and including partnering on projects that we've done in the past, like getting a $90 million grant for the Indian River Bridge. The Space Coast TPO was instrumental in supporting that as well. Georgiana asked me to come speak today to discuss Space Florida's role in implementing the statewide Spaceport Improvement Program, which is reported under Brevard County, as you saw in the tentative work program. And we'd like to expand on why multimodal is reported under Brevard. And what I hope to convey to you today is, one, the Spaceport Improvements funds are programmed for Brevard, but they are for statewide use. So we are still an emerging form of transportation, and right now those funds are managed under District 5 under Brevard's line item. Two, I'd like to explain that these are modal funds and that are allocated at the state level. So those are allocated at central office Tallahassee level. And three, that there is a significant portion of these funds that are private dollars. So that pie chart that was shown earlier for the tentative work program, pretty much a full third of that pie is private money coming into Brevard County. Okay, so who is Space Florida? We are an independent special district of the state of Florida. We have a board that's appointed by the governor's office. We have a statewide role that goes beyond just spaceports, though. We have a role in advanced aviation projects throughout the state, and here locally such as at Melbourne Orlando Airport, where we've worked with partners on projects with Northrop Grumman, with Embraer, Economic Development Council of Space Coast, etc. Florida has made a smart move to invest over $500 million in infrastructure and state transportation projects, with the vast majority of those investments happening here in Brevard County at the Cape Canaveral Spaceport. We are helping keep Florida as a national and global leader in space commerce. Just as there's been a lot of growth here on the Space Coast in the past decade, we are also seeing that happen globally. Texas is competing for a lot of launches now and manufacturing, as well as internationally, China has become a major player when it comes to space. We have a role as a spaceport authority, the ability to build, own, operate, and finance infrastructure in ways that the federal government cannot. We collaborate with our federal partners and commercial launch providers to help fill that gap. We are developing and growing infrastructure on federal property, and there is a need to close that gap when it comes to infrastructure development. We act as an enabler, a financer, a developer to invest similarly to how airports and seaports do at other intermodal hubs. We have a strong partnership with the Department of Transportation, and that is actually directed in Florida Statute 331-360, which directs DOT to work with Space Florida on aerospace transportation project development statewide. Again, as I mentioned at the end of the shuttle program, the state realized the importance of investing in space infrastructure, and the result is attracting and retaining over 5,500 skilled jobs since 2012. The focus is growing Florida's aerospace presence and increasing the capacity and capabilities of the state's spaceport system. I'd like to take a minute to take a look at this slide. This was the FY26 budget for the Department of Transportation, again, statewide. You can see the smallest sliver there is spaceports. So again, most of the spaceport activities are happening here at the Cape right now. One important note is that modal development is allocated separate from highway, roads, bridges, resurfacing. These are different buckets of money. And it's actually in statute also, Florida Statute 206, that defines the minimum state investment that's dedicated to our modal development programs. That being spaceports, seaports, airports, rail, transit, and intermodal. We work with the Spaceports Office. They are a modal development office in Tallahassee in the central office, and we coordinate and allocate projects at that level. And those funds are then managed at the district level here in District 5. 99% of the funding to date has been here at the world's premier spaceport, at the Cape Canaveral Spaceport. And Brevard County has economic growth that benefits from that large investment. Spaceport Improvement Program is also used for other spaceports in the state as this industry grows. Cecil Spaceport in Jacksonville, Space Coast Regional Air and Spaceport in Titusville, and eventually other spaceport territories at strategic Air Force bases here in Florida. Important to note that the Spaceport Improvement Program is an economic development program. It requires a minimum 50% match. So the numbers you see in the work program include that private match, which is over $3.3 billion to date. And that's resulted in a direct ROI of over 6 to 1. The growth we anticipate will continue to happen here because the Cape is a really special place. It was attained by the federal government in the 1950s and 1960s for this purpose. And I always like to say, if it hadn't been taken for that purpose, I think we would see a continuation of A1A Condo Row, an extension of Merritt Island to North Merritt Island. So this land was specially dedicated for this purpose, and there's not any other place in Florida that this can occur. We're near the ocean and near the equator, and without the development of the typical Florida coastline. It's also a national security imperative to grow the Cape Canaveral Spaceport, and flight cadence will rise. To summarize, the Spaceport Improvement Funds are programmed in Brevard because of the Cape. In 2025, we've surpassed 100 launches. But as the spaceport system grows, the funds will be spread further statewide. And these funds that are allocated by the central office in Tallahassee are matched by a significant private investment of over $3.3 billion. These modal funds are separate funding source than highway funds, and at this time, I'd be glad to take any questions you all have.
Thank you, Steve. That was very interesting. Any questions for Steve? Go ahead.
Adam Cole at District 1. One, I thank you for taking the time to come out and sharing some of this stuff with us. As retired military, I often marvel at the benefits of the space program to the citizens of America. Sometimes we see that the benefits are sometimes ROI 15 times. You were very conservative with 6.1.
Yeah, that's a direct ROI. That's cash. That's not the indirect effects, which are far greater than that.
Thank you. One of the things that I've heard in the last 30 days is that our fishing industry here is taking a really significant hit. And you probably can't address this issue in its entirety, but I wanted you to touch on it if you don't mind. Is there some way that the effects of the fishing industry could be minimized based on the rocket launches that are occurring here? I mean, back in the old days, there weren't that many. When we first started, I've been here 15 years. Back when I got here, we didn't have 6 organizations vying for rocket launches, and I don't even think SpaceX was doing 20 a year, let alone over 100 now. Is it really necessary for the government to restrict people and fishing vessels for all those hours before and after? Is there some way that people could be minimized, but the industry, the fishing industry, could have more access, more time access? I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, what I do know is that that issue is becoming more known. Safety closure areas are regulated by the FAA and the Space Force.
I understand that.
And what I think we're seeing now, if you looked at that chart, 5 years ago we were at 30 launches. 10 years ago we were at 10 launches. And with vehicle reliability, which we're seeing, such as with SpaceX Falcon 9, the closure areas are getting smaller over time. And that time is how long in advance the areas need to be closed, and then how wide an area needs to be closed.
But are you making an effort to let the fishing industry, the individuals in the fish, do they understand that you're making efforts to improve minimizing the amount of time? Because if you're not communicating this information, I'll go back to Abby here. If she spends the time and tells people what they need to know, the public can respond. If we don't tell them, sometimes they perceive things worse than they are.
Yeah, I understand that point. And let me get back with you on that.
Thank you.
But I do know it's an issue for everyone. You know, cruise ships, we have to consider airliners, the public. So let me get back with you on that, but I am aware of that concern for
Thank
certain.
you for coming
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Bill.
Back when we had the supersonic transports, they used to slow down as they approached the United States so that they didn't get the sonic boom. When SpaceX lands rockets at Cape Canaveral, it shakes the living daylights out of the houses, and I'm sure there's significant damage resulting from this sonic boom, the dual sonic booms. Is there anybody looking at controlling the landings at Cape Canaveral?
Again, that's regulated by the FAA and the Space Force. And I believe that each company, when they apply for their launch license, is allowed so many launches, so many landings. I know there is science involved in coming up with those sonic boom contours, and I'm not aware of significant damage to date, but again, I probably have to get back with you on that, Bill, to provide a little more detail on that. But again, that is regulated at the federal level.
Why did they control the supersonic transports and now they're not controlling this? I understand
Yeah,
it's not your problem, but
Yeah. So you're like Concorde flights you're talking about in the
Yes.
past? Okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of that, and definitely can look into that.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Steve? Yes.
I asked Steve to come and present because, Florida, basically is the leader in transportation. There's no question about that. And I find it very interesting when you look at the statewide investment, there's just a very small sliver of investment into the space industry. And that's very telling right there. And that investment is coming out of central office. So it is a statewide investment. So, if Florida's going to continue to be the leader, especially in space, it's going to require more investment. And I think that this is great for the state of Florida. It's great for Brevard County. We need to support it. And I think this is just fantastic. And it really does put things in perspective. So thank you for that. And I think the governing board will be very interested in this information as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Greg.
Steve, from somebody who's spent 33 years launching rockets, I can tell you this is a miracle. The one thing, I'm glad you have that slide up there, though, and I know that's not your slide. It might be FDOT's slide, but anytime, as a citizen, anytime I see a pie chart like that with that percentage of other, I get nervous. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Pete.
I appreciate the space industry being in Brevard County. It changes the dynamics of our growth, and I think it makes for a better overall growth of our county. We definitely have a nicer area and a nicer influx of people, and I appreciate you guys being here.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Keep
Thank
up the
you.
good work. All right, next up is the 2024 State of the System. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Le Yi Zhang, and I will be presenting the 2024 State of the System report. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. I'll start with a quick overview of what the SOS is and why we do this analysis every year. And then we'll take a look at the key parts of the report, starting from some major countywide trends that we're seeing, and then we'll go into to take a closer look at safety, congestion, and reliability on the roadway network. I'll also provide a brief update on the SOS dashboard before we wrap up. So the SOS is our annual data-driven check-in on how Brevard County's transportation system is performing. We look at some big picture trends such as demographics, tourism, commerce, and the activities at the various ports. And on the roadway side, the SOS tracks safety, congestion, and travel time reliability. The SOS provides technical guidance to the Space Coast TPO regarding the transportation system performance measures, and it is also a key component of the required congestion management system. The SOS also helps identify where the system is improving, where challenges remain, and where the federal and state dollars should be spent to enhance the entire transportation network. And before we get into the roadway-specific performance measures, we can start by looking at the broader countywide trends. Understanding demographic changes, travel patterns, and overall growth helps us see how well the transportation system is keeping up and where community needs are evolving. So on this slide, we're looking at hotel occupancy, transit ridership, and the activities at the various ports. We're seeing increases in all of these measures comparing to 2020, which means that we're recovering from the pandemic. And comparing to 2023, we also see increases in most of these measures, except for some small decreases in terms of airport passengers and the port cargo tonnages. Okay, and next we'll take a look at the safety on the roadway network. Keeping all roadway users safe is the top priority for the Space Coast TPO, and understanding where crashes occur most frequently and where the most severe crashes occur helps us target improvements that can make the whole system safer. As part of the TPO's Vision Zero effort, we regularly update the high injury network. And the high injury network helps us identify a small groups of corridors and intersections where the most severe crashes occur for vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. And for the 2024 SOS, we updated this network using the fatal and serious injury crashes data from 2020 to 2024. Okay. So here we're looking at the fatal and serious injury crashes in terms of vehicle crashes and also the vehicle HIN. We can see that the number of fatal and serious injury crashes decreased, both comparing to 2020 and 2023. And the map on the right is showing the roadways on the general HIN in thin black lines and the intersections with small black dots on the background. And on top of these, the top 10 roadway segments and intersections on the vehicle HINs are showing up on the purple lines and dots. And on the map, we can see that major arterials such as US 1, US 192, State Road A1A, and State Road 520 are showing up. And these results are consistent with what we found in previous years. Okay. And this slide, we're showing where vehicle crashes of all severities are happening most often. And in terms of the number of crashes, we do see a slight uptick comparing to 2020, but that makes sense given the unusual conditions during the pandemic, but crash numbers went down comparing to 2023. And the map on the right highlights the top 10 segments and intersections with the highest crash frequency. We can see that Palm Bay Road and Whitcomb Road are standing out on the top, and overall, the highest crash locations are clustered more in the southern part of the county. And in addition to the vehicles, we also look at vulnerable roadway users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. And while the fatal and serious injury crashes in these modes are at about the same level as 2020, the good news is we are seeing them drop by nearly 10% comparing to 2023. And the map on the right is similar, showing the overall HIN in the background and the top segments and intersections on the HIN for these modes in different colors. And similar to the vehicle map, we are seeing multiple locations showing up on State Road A1A and US 1, and also some segments on US 192. And these corridors often have higher speed, mixing with multimodal activities, and which increases the chance of severe crashes for those vulnerable roadway users. And here we're looking at the frequency of the vulnerable roadway user crashes. We can see that segments and intersections in the urbanized areas, such as Cocoa and Melbourne, are showing up a little bit more, which makes sense since these areas have more vulnerable roadway user activity. And next, we'll take a look at the congestion analysis for the roadway network. And these analyses are based on the TPO's ongoing effort to collect and maintain local traffic count data. And these data gives us a picture of how much demand the roadway network is carrying and where congestion pressure are increasing. Okay, so in terms of traffic volumes, we're seeing an increase comparing to both 2020 and 2023. And the map on the right is showing the top 10 segment in terms of traffic volumes and the top 5 intersections in terms of traffic volumes. And we see Malabar Road, Palm Bay Road showing up on the top in the corridor list, and intersections on Babcock Road and Palm Bay Road showing up on the intersections list. And in addition to the traffic volumes, we also look at the V over C ratio, which stands for the volume to capacity ratio. It compares how many cars use the roadway to how many is designed to carry. If the VC ratio is over 1, then that means the roadway carries more cars than it's built for, and that means it's over capacity. And if the ratio is between 0.85 and 1, and that indicates the roadway is congested. And in 2024, there were 13 corridors that are congested and 7 corridors that were over capacity. And the map on the right shows where these segments are, and consistent with previous year's result, we see Ellis Road popping up on the top. And similar to what we found in the vehicle crash frequency map, the congested and overcapacity roadways are more concentrated in the southern part of the county. Okay, next we'll move into reliability. We added the reliability measures as a complementary measure to the congestion analysis because we don't want to just look at how crowded a roadway is. We also want to see how predictable it is. A roadway might not be congested or over capacity in general, but if your travel time on the same stretch of road is 15 minutes on one day, but 30 minutes on the next, and that inconsistency in travel time affects you just as much as the heavy traffic. And also, when the roadway is unreliable in terms of travel time, it also affects freight activities and emergency responses. And in the SAWS, we measured this unreliability with the level of travel time reliability. And here on this slide, we're showing a table to see where on the roadway network we have data available for this measure and how we calculated this metric. We measure reliability across multiple time periods, and here we're showing the weekday daily map, and then the weekday AM and PM maps on the next slide. We are highlighting the segments and areas that are unreliable across multiple time periods, and we're seeing roadways in Cocoa, Melbourne, and Palm Bay showing up. And here are the maps for the weekday AM and the weekday PM. And as we can see, there are small variations between these different time periods, but the general areas and corridors are pretty similar. Okay, and for the last part of the presentation, I'd like to provide an update on the SAWS dashboard. The dashboard is being updated with the 2024 data and will be ready by the end of the year. Users are able to explore roadway characteristics, congestion, and safety-related measures interactively on this dashboard, and it is a tool that you can use to see metrics for roadways that you're interested in. The dashboard with the 2023 data is still alive on the TPO's website right now, so feel free to check it out. Okay, so that's it for the SAWS. Thank you so much for listening, and we're opening up for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Yvonne.
Okay, could you tell me about how many deaths have been in Melbourne and also on A1A? and you mentioned it's very large there, so what's the stats on that, please?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I don't have the statistics for Melbourne and A1A specifically on the top of my head, but we do, when we do the safety analysis, we do collect all the data and have those statistics ready in our spreadsheet and report. I can get back to you later once we get the stats.
Okay. Yes, I'm very concerned because a very dear friend of mine eventually succumbed to his injuries on A1A and also in Melbourne. So just want to know what the stats are and, can we slow them down anymore? Push the car through A1A or at US 1 or Sorno or NASA. So it's a lot of accidents that's going on there. So I definitely would like the stats on those two, please.
Cool. Thank you. And I just want to share that because we're doing the high injury network analysis, and we're also teaming with the TPO and our team who are doing the Vision Zero action plan. So A1A is definitely on the high injury network, both county-wide and for Melbourne specifically. And these plans will go into the safety countermeasures that the TPO will later consider.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Pete.
Looking at the roadway map of the crash trends, where you have the serious injuries, a lot of those, to me, just look like they're on higher speed roads, 50 miles an hour and plus. And is that correct?
Yes. So, yeah, so higher speed definitely contributes to, more severe crashes. Yeah, so that.
You have the number of crashes are high, but also the severity. Now, I know out in the sticks, it's harder to see bicyclists and pedestrians, and that's where the lighting comes in that you're looking at. But, speed limit comes into play too, and I just wanted to make sure I was reading this map correctly.
Yep, so yeah, so you're absolutely correct about a lot of these roads being major arterials and corridors that have higher speed. And then you're absolutely correct about higher speed being a key factor in the severity of the crashes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ginger.
I was curious, how does law enforcement interact?
Ginger, speak into the microphone, please. There you go.
How does law enforcement interact with this data that you're providing them?
I'm not personally aware of this right now.
Right.
I'm not sure if the TPO.
How law enforcement interacts.
Are they seeing this information? Are
Well,
they
yes.
changing their
Yes, we actually,
vision?
I'm not sure what vision you're talking about, but we actually last year went on a law enforcement tour. I'll let Laura answer, but we actually will take the high injury network maps, sit down with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office in each one of the cities, their senior staff, and we actually talk about it. And we talk about, they're not surprised when they look at the high injury network and where these major crashes are happening. They're not surprised at all. So we talk about how we can help, if there's any sort of education that we could do. Are there any projects that we need to bring to DOT's attention? And then the department in resurfacing projects, they are always looking to try and improve, the corridor with certain countermeasures to try and slow people down. But as you know, there's a lot of pushback from the public when you try to put in a countermeasure to slow people down, whether it be a roundabout or a bicycle lane or whatever. And so it's tough. It's very tough, but absolutely law enforcement, this information was pulled from, from the,
and,
was it Signal 4? Or,
yes.
Okay, from Signal 4, so they're very aware of it, but we do sit down with them. But I'll let Laura give a better
I just
answer.
wanted to also add, our staff also is coordinating through the Community Traffic Safety Team, CTST. So this information is available to them. One of the reasons we do this every year is to provide the data And then what they do with it obviously is based on their resources. They can sometimes also, I know in the past, they have used it to target corridors for speed, where their speed enforcement will go out. So having this information helps guide where they actually go out and do those enforcements. But a lot of the enforcement and coordination is through our Vision Zero, which Leah is heavily involved with in that program. This is just the data part of it.
Right.
So
But do any, also, question is, any of the modifications made by FDOT or the county and roads, do you see a change in the statistics by some of the changes that they've made?
There
in the
can be when
structure?
we do it before and after specific corridor studies, and we are working on trying to do some of that where we have implemented it. But as Georgiana alluded to, we have a lot of pushback on actually implementing these changes that actually have proven countermeasures. And until we can get the mindset changed and actually get them implemented, we're going to be continuing to see the challenge of bringing down severe crashes.
Because the numbers talk.
They do, but people ignore them, so.
Yeah, Peter Fuskus.
Regarding congestion, there's been a tremendous amount of housing development in Brevard County. And I was wondering, what kind of programs do you have to track this housing development going into the future and how it affects the
Congestion of the roadways. Okay, so thank you for asking. So in our countywide trend section, we do track demographic changes. For right now, we don't have a very specific measure for the development changes, but that is definitely something that we can consider incorporating in the future. And for the SOS report, we generally look at the countywide traffic volumes, and we haven't been able to consider the interaction between the roadway and the developments right now. But I'm sure there are like other studies like TIAs looking at how development is like impacting the roadway network. And thank you for mentioning that. And I think these are all great ideas that we can incorporate into our later data tracking effort.
Do we have a data source for the housing development that is already completed?
Yeah, I just want to add that that's really related to our long-range transportation plan that we just adopted. We look at models and we work with all of our local partners here. We look at what we call base year, which we're getting ready to update to 2025. And then we'll look at future year. And that's all the land development that's getting ready to occur. So that's all embedded within the model analysis that's done as part of the long-range plan. So we've identified where the congestion is. If you would like for us to share that data when it comes out, we'll have information on 2025, where people are population by single family, multifamily, commercial, residential, and we do that for base year and projected years, so you can identify where the congestion is going to be occurring in the future and hopefully get in your project priorities projects that will help alleviate that. But remember, we are limited by space, so you can only widen a road so far. But yes, we do have the data available, and that gets into modeling, and I don't want to put everybody to sleep on talking about that.
Yeah, Adam?
Adam Kohler, District 1. I've got some good news here. And maybe we haven't really seen that yet because we're still in the early stages of receiving benefits from AI. One of the things that really blows me away, and I appreciate the fact that
You sound loud to me.
I know, I'm trying to speak as loudly as possible without blowing my neighbors here ears off. One of the things that I really find fascinating is that the older I get, the more overwhelmed I become by statistical data. Yes, we need statistical data. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to, and I probably won't be around here much longer than 10 or 20 years, depending upon my lifestyle, is that AI will be able to sift and sort through a lot of this stuff in seconds rather than in days. And I don't know if you're seeing that. One of the things that I would like to see, and I'm not asking the staff to do this, is that the information we're looking at is really nice, but we find out that there's a problem when it's too late. Notice the street that's on the top of the chart in several of these charts here. One of the benefits of having the statistical data is to see how the changes are occurring rapidly, so that a highway that is not impacted at all suddenly, in a matter of 2 or 3 years, is moving up the chart faster than other street segments are. We're not seeing that in this data here because we're only getting a snapshot of what it is today, or last week, or last year. You follow what I'm saying? I'm not asking you to make this thing more complicated. I'm just saying I am looking forward to the day when this information will be more readily available to us, and we won't just look at a snapshot. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. And we do have like a 5-year tracking, data and bar charts for a lot of these measures, but you're correct about for the list of congestion corridors or safety corridors, we only have a snapshot every year. And then I think when it comes to time of corridor level or project level development or programming, these data will come into play and compare from year to year.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Aaron.
Just a really simple question, on the reliability part. Because the comment on 520 and Cocoa made me think about it. Is part of the analysis when we have these problems that somebody looks at the timing of these traffic lights? Because it seems sometimes we create the problem with the way we've got these lights timed. But there are people that analyze that? Are there? I hope.
Yes. Laura, is there anything? Sorry.
No, it's fine. So signal timing, depending on, where the corridor is, it's regarding ownership. And you mentioned Cocoa, a lot of those signals are helped and maintained by the county. So looking at this information and having it shared with them, signal timing is we have ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems. We have traffic management systems that can coordinate and tie those together. A lot of the technology that's out there is ever changing. We have implemented along all the major corridors. Most of them we're putting in fiber, especially along state roads wherever there's projects. But you have to have the people and the resources to maintain it. And that's where a huge challenge is with, we can implement and probably get the capital to put the materials out there and the equipment, but if there's no one at the house monitoring it and maintaining it, it makes it very difficult. Some of the data is where you're having the reliability. It's important to know that reliability is as good as what you can use it for, and that's where your dynamic message signs can come in. If you have a corridor, as we know, I-95, we'll pick on that for a moment, it's pretty much congested every day on certain segments between 4 and 6 p.m. Now, if you know that every day, you can adjust your schedule. But if there is an incident that occurs at noon, using the dynamic message signs and that ITS intelligence, we can send out messages to say there is an incident or traffic is congested, please use an alternate route or whatever. So the information is being dispersed, but it's only in certain areas where it's available right now. We're limited by staffing resources and funding. But we are looking at probably updating our Intelligent Transportation Systems Master Plan starting late next year. And that will be looking into signal timing and all the resources we have to at least make the flow of traffic more consistent, as you mentioned, reliable, so we can get the information, and we have all of our vehicles now and phones can tell us all the time, we have issues here, it's red, it's not green today. Coming here this morning, I was kind of surprised that everybody got up and went to work today for some reason. It was congested in a lot of areas, so having that information, and just keep in mind this report that was presented, it is just that snapshot of time, is to let us to know how is our system performing at this particular time, and what resources can we apply in the future to help alleviate where there are issues. Did I answer your question, or did I just go in a big circle?
I don't know. I mean, and this is just anecdotal because I don't have any data, but I noticed when they did that construction on 520 in Cocoa, it got worse after that. So I was like, did they change the timing of these lights as part of the construction and then not go back and analyze it? Because it has gotten worse. And it could be all sorts of reasons for that. So,
We could
like I
certainly
said,
look
it's
into
just
that to
anecdotal.
make sure that the signal timing's been
Yeah, okay.
reevaluated.
Okay, all right, our next presentation is e-bikes, guidance for potential safety ordinances.
That was a warm welcome. Thank you. Okay, I'm Leah Nepo. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator. You guys all have your item sheets, and I want to make sure that we're able to get to the discussion. So I'm going to be going through the slides a little bit quickly, but of course you can stop me for clarifying questions. So at the TPO and as the Community Engagement Coordinator, we are frequently involved in conversations with our municipal governments about the many challenges and confusion that has come with e-bikes in our communities. So we cannot implement nor enforce, but what we can do is provide our partners the different perspectives of this regional group, the TAC-CAC, as a potential guidance and recommendation to governments that are looking to, one, holistically understand this challenge, and also perhaps pursue individual ordinances. Again, this is not a discussion that is meant to draft an ordinance today. It is just meant to guide us as staff to best understand this changing landscape. And so we'll be going over some really basic info, so we're all on the same page, and then there will be hopefully room for discussion. So when evaluating e-bikes, there are 3 classes. It's important to note that helmets are required for all of those under 16 years of age, but a license is not required to operate. Most models are capped at a maximum output of 750 watts or at the speed of 20 miles per hour or 28 miles per hour, depending on the class. The 3 classes will sometimes make the difference of where e-bikes can operate, such as bike lanes or roadways. Now, if you've ever encountered an e-bike that you believe is higher than 28 miles per hour, then they are not considered an e-bike, even if they are marketed as such, regardless of what state you are in. And we'll talk a little bit later about why you might be encountering these counterfeit e-bikes at higher speeds. So some relevant Florida laws currently, e-bikes are recognized as bicycles provided they meet those definitions that I just went over, the top speed and the 750 watts. Also, some state statutes outline that a person may not tamper with an e-bike in a way that changes its speed unless the manufacturer label is updated to say as such. Legislation was also granted for expanded authority to regulate e-bikes. Local governments may now adopt ordinances governing the use and the operation of e-bikes within their jurisdictions, and local governments may also set minimum age requirements and may require riders to carry a license or a government issued ID. Florida does not currently maintain statewide standards for e-bikes, so much of this responsibility is falling to counties and cities. In response to all this, many counties that are lacking ordinances or have them, there have been education programs developed. Many are in early stages. This is just a snapshot. Some have online components, safety videos, social media, and others include physical components of actually teaching children how to ride these. While these programs are valuable, education alone is not enough. So without consistent regulations and clear enforced expectations, high-risk behavior may continue. Here are some of the current challenges with e-bikes. There's several emerging. There's been widespread modifications, right? So companies and individual users are increasing their motor wattage, changing their controllers, adding throttle kits that push e-bikes beyond the legal limit. Some riders will install dummy pedals, that makes it look like they have pedals, but they do not actually have pedals at all. Additionally, some devices that are capable of up to 40 miles per hour are being marketed as e-bikes despite not meeting that threshold, and it's more meeting the threshold of an electric motorcycle. This has created confusion for law enforcement, communities, and riders. There's also some confusion about crash reporting. E-bike related crashes are difficult to track. And then across the state and country and in our county, there have been high-speed e-bike crashes that have resulted in serious injuries and fatalities. This combination of speed, inexperience, and a lack of protective equipment will increase the risk dramatically. So on October 22nd, 2025, Florida senators introduced House Bill 243 in response to the confusion caused by increasingly powerful devices. And if this is passed, the bill would make it illegal to modify an e-bike. It would clearly define an electric motorcycle as any motorcycle powered by an electric motor of 750 watts or more and is capable of speeds 28 miles or more. And riders would be required to have a license, register the vehicle, and follow all motorcycle laws. So what should local policy look like? Given the rapid growth of this and the emerging safety concerns, there's several key questions that arise. And one of the first is, should there be a minimum age requirement? So on the slide in front of you are some examples of minimum age requirements across counties, states, and for golf carts and cars. But I'm opening it up for discussion.
Adam Cole at District 1. It says here, some states change minimum age requirements. Why are we not just talking about Florida?
This was just to reference, because we're really just gathering your input. So this was just to refer to what other states are doing. Florida does not currently have a minimum age requirement across the state.
That's why I was saying something. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Debbie. Go ahead, Debbie. Yep.
I was home visiting over Thanksgiving, and my father made a comment about golf carts, why a child didn't have a helmet on. And I guess where they live in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area, they're required to wear helmets on a golf cart. Is Brevard County required to wear a helmet on golf carts?
I am not sure. I don't believe.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so.
I thought it was odd, but I never heard of that until my father made that comment.
Makes sense.
Yep. Pete?
Wow, huh? Well, only person owns more bikes than me is Ginger. I own about 12 or 13 bikes, 3 bikes, 2 Class 1s and 1 Class 3.
You run them out?
My main mileage one is my hybrid bike. My e-bike outperforms my beach cruiser, it outperforms my hybrid, so if I was stuck just picking one bicycle, it'd be the e-bike because it can do what the other 2 do better than what they do. With that said, I'm going to get into some of the deficiencies and maybe some recommendations. Number one, my e-bikes are not labeled as to what class they are. So if some police came over and said, hey, you got a type 3, well, kiss my butt. Show me on my bike where it says type 3. And then the second one, if you're talking about speed, e-bike, the kind I own are pedal assisted only. And the better manufacturers, they only manufacture pedal assisted. Now, if you get a cheaper e-bike, it's going to have a throttle, and that's a class 2, where you hit your throttle and you go 20 miles an hour without pedaling. Now, your class 3 will assist you up to 28 miles an hour. Well, on my class 1, I was doing 30 miles an hour the other day, but it only pedal assists up to 20. The extra mileage is on my power. So you can't use speed because my class 1 can go faster than 20 miles an hour, but I got to put some Peter power into it to get to that speed. And so with that said, you just can throw the speed classifications out the window because they don't apply. Being on the road a lot, the folks that look like they had DUIs and have to drive something, and they got a class 2 e-bike with the dark clothes, no helmet, and they drive with the throttle on all the time, those are the class 2s. There are also the cheaper bikes, and so a lot of kids that are getting in trouble, their parents buy them an $800, $900 e-bike, it's a class 2, they hit the throttle, 20 miles an hour, you don't got to pedal so you're not road aware, you know, they're just cruising and almost boozing, and they hit things and they get hit. So, you know, my first recommendation was if you're going to restrict bicycles, e-bikes, look at the Class 2 because they're causing the most carnage. But right now, we don't have any way to differentiate between the different e-bikes because they're not marked. So when you get a crash, it's just an e-bike crash, and you can't differentiate. So in order to do a good ordinance, we need good statistics. In the interim, we can force a safety program on kids 18 and under that they need to take a safety class and pass a safety test. And we can also regulate Class 1 only for kids 18 and under. This way, if their parents want to buy them an e-bike, it's pedal assist only up to 20 miles an hour, and at least they'd be more roadway aware because it's not automatic. And if the bike is doing all the work for you, heck, you're looking every which way. Looking at stuff that they do on their cell phones nowadays, the girls flirting with the Google man, you know, the ladies the guys flirting with Alexa, but not paying attention to what they're doing because they don't even have to pedal. So that's important. 20 miles, Class 1, and pass a test before they can get an ID to drive an e-bike, and that would really reduce the amount of crashes. And all the bikes have to be labeled, but you got to do that on the state level, Georgiano, because I can mail order a bicycle when it comes in, and right now it doesn't have to be labeled as to what class it is. Now, I've got some other things on my list.
Real quick, I just want to reiterate what I'm hearing just to make sure. So you're saying for Class 1, the minimum requirement, you said they would have to pass a test. This is a driver's test?
Right. Well, a safety test.
Okay.
Like a big problem I see with the automatic is I don't get on your ride or passing you or biking back you, and those things are heavy. They're 50 pounds or more, and you know, shoo. And you know, especially in Orange County where they're on the sidewalks. And they're allowed to be on the sidewalks. And the sidewalks are 5 feet wide. And here's some 20 miles an hour, and they're pedaling even faster without any warning. And if I step over, I'm hurt bad. But my recommendation is for kids, high school kids, grade school kids, that they do a basic safety test. You know, wear a helmet. You have to warn people if you're passing them. And only be allowed to use a pedal assist only. That'd be a Class 1 bike. And that would greatly reduce the crashes, because I know a couple kids myself, they got into crashes, but they had the cheap $800 and, you know, using the throttles and not paying attention. And we all know, well, if you have a cruise control in your vehicle that senses different speeds, you pay less attention to the road than you normally would. You're not as in tune as if you're driving without a cruise control because you're watching your eye, and, you know, you're just more in tune. And the same thing with a bicycle. If it's cruising at 20 miles an hour and you don't even have to pedal, your brain has time to wander. If you're pedaling, you're concentrating.
Absolutely, yeah, and those are absolute challenges and concerns with e-bikes, which is why some counties are looking to putting minimum age requirement. So what I'm hearing is maybe not a age requirement, just a safety test requirement.
Well, that's for buying them, and I mentioned that before. Anybody that buys an e-bike should have some basic rules of the road before they can buy something like that.
But unfortunately now it's not that way right
We're
now.
talking about potential ordinances. I know right now you got the cash, you can walk out. Unless you go to a bike shop, they might be a little bit, you know, asking questions. But if you got the cash, you can mail order a bike, and I'm sure you could get a modification kit too, but I'm just going to assume everybody's doing legal just for this conversation. And, you know, we're limited to a 750 watt motor right now, and that's what they classify e-bike. My second recommendation, if it has automatic where you don't have to pedal, then it's no longer a bicycle. See, to me, bicycles are pedal only.
Yes.
And so, you know, if you're going to do a local ordinance, a bicycle should be classified as pedal only. And then if you're not going to have a pedal only bicycle, then you need to get to the upper level, have all the insurance and the license and the tag, and treat it like a motorized vehicle, regardless of the speed. You know, because bicycle, you pedal. If you don't have to pedal, it's a motorized vehicle. It quits being a bicycle. And that's something else in the back of my mind. And let's see, by class, and insurance. If you want to buy bicycle insurance, which I have on my bicycles, I do have bicycle insurance, the liability is very, very low on it, and you can't get high liability on a bicycle. On bicycle insurance, there's only 1 or 2 companies in the country that even sell bicycle insurance. And so you're going to be very limited at what you can buy. And, you know, once again, that reinforces what I'm saying. No automatic speed, you got to pedal, because it'll keep your rate of speed lower and your crashes lower, especially for the kids. They got to work hard to get at 28 miles an hour. I doubt they'll do it.
So was the recommendation, Pete, for bicycle insurance?
Pedal only for
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, pedal only. If it has that automatic throttle, it's no longer considered a bicycle. You bump that up to a higher class where you have to buy insurance and you have to have a driver's license and a tag, and you make it a lot more restrictive.
So pedal only,
Pedal
no
only.
insurance,
Well,
throttle insurance.
throttles, yeah, throttle is, yeah, just like low velocity vehicle, you know, you gotta
I'm
have.
with you. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, that is time. However, my email is up there on the screen. What we're really looking for is some information and recommendations on minimum age requirement, the requirement for government ID, and where you believe e-bikes can ride. So if you have additional thoughts or comments, come meet me after. I'll be over here, or feel free to email that information, because I also want to respect your time today. But I really appreciate the opportunity.
Got to talk to Ginger.
Yeah.
Age limit, ID required, helmets, yes, UL-rated batteries.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting situation that we're faced with. You know, it's technology. It's faster than the, you know, the compliance and the regulations. And you know, one of the suggestions that I have is, you know, this is an important topic, and I think that it deserves maybe a little more time, and maybe we could have a separate meeting on it, or a work group or something like that.
Maybe even the next.
Maybe the
meeting.
next one.
Yeah.
Because I just think, I'm sure everyone has encountered these e-bikes. I certainly have on my bike. I cycle a lot on the roads, and
I know that there are several cities that have been working with the Sheriff's Department and their police department that are looking into potential ordinances. So, you know, potentially Brevard County may be interested in it. So the thoughts were is that we could be ready and kind of provide them with some feedback from a regional perspective, since we have everybody here in the room. And we were planning to kind of give a TAC-CAC report on Thursday to the governing board, which we could do with some of the things that we've heard so far. But if there's anything that comes to your mind, if you could email Leah, and we can actually put that on some slides, that this is what we heard. And we could definitely continue this conversation, but I think things are moving so quickly that folks may be ready to do things before February, which is when we're going to be meeting again.
Right.
So, you know, we knew that you all would be very much interested in this, and you have such valuable input, Pete and Ginger and Cliff and others. So we have your comments, but if you think of anything else, please send it to Leah, and we will kind of keep you posted on what we hear.
So this going to continue, or we truncating it today and maybe do a follow-up email?
What I would like to do is to discuss with the governing board what we heard, but we can certainly, we're going to be talking about this for a long time, and we can put it on the agenda in February, but I think that I would like to kind of let the governing board what we heard, let them know what we heard.
This is a state issue. This is not a local thing.
It is a state issue, but the local governments, they have the ability to set their own ordinances.
And they are doing it, like you said.
And there are some that are doing it. So why not give them the feedback if you have some valuable feedback as they're doing it right now?
Yes.
And I would say the classification, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the throttle bikes, but this is not our Brevard County or even state of Florida classification scheme. It is the classification scheme for e-bikes. So we could say, well, for a class 2, you have to have a license or whatever we want to say, but we can't change the definitions. That's like an uphill battle. There's no sense to do that.
Yeah. What local governments can do in their ordinance is, I believe, just where e-bikes can ride, the speed limit of them,
Correct.
minimum age requirement, and if a license.
That's
So
what
we
we're talking
can't.
Whether a helmet, right.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that's what we're
restrict
talking about.
kids to owning certain classes of
Yeah, you
bikes.
could do that if I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be the minimum age requirement, yes.
Leah had, slides that was going to guide the conversation, and it's very specific, only on the things that local governments are allowed to do. So that's kind of what we're after here.
You know, Georgiana, I looked at the state as copping out by giving the local governments. I mean, they really copped out on that. And I hate to see every county have their own regulations, but it is what it is, and we got what we got.
Yeah.
And as long as kids in Brevard County are getting serious injuries, we can help that situation out.
Well, on the flip side, though, you also have, at a state level, you want to address the very high issues. At the local level, if you're going to ride an e-bike out in Mims on 46, and you're going to ride a e-bike down in downtown Melbourne, Village, something like that, those are two completely different requirements.
Yes, and that's why they did it the way they did it, yeah.
So that would be my rebuttal, is you got to leave local leeway, because rural, urban, interurban, they have, in my mind, they have different
Well,
requirements.
schools happen to be countywide.
Okay, folks, I think we're really running late. I think we need to wrap this up, and let's just say to be continued.
Lots more discussion, yes.
Well, thank you. You can find me.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. All right, we're going to move into the reports section of our agenda. The first report is from the Florida Department of Transportation. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. In the interest of time, if you have any questions about any projects, go ahead and look at the updated report that's in your agenda packet. The one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of is the fact that we're going to be having public meetings for State Road 501 and 524 in January. The 501 public hearing will be on the 12th, and that'll be at the Travis Park Recreation Center. And then 524, we're going to have a virtual and a in-person meeting. So the virtual is on January 20th, and there's a link to register for that virtual meeting, and then the in-person is January 22nd. Now, I talked to Zoe before this meeting, and she put these events on the event calendar in Space Coast's website, so that link is available there as well. So I just wanted to make sure, since we're not meeting again in February, you folks were aware of that. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chuck. Any questions for Chuck?
All
right, thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, I just want to mention real quick, the 501 Clear Lake public meeting, as well as 524 PD&E public meeting, these are two of our top priority projects on our list of project priorities. And so even though those two corridors may not be in your area, please feel free to make comments, in support of this project, or whatever comments you may have, because a lot of times, the department may get negative comments. People only want to comment when it's something negative. And these are projects that are our top priorities. And so you, as our committee members, have the ability to really weigh in, either online or attend the public meeting, to actually give your comments and support if it's nothing but that. So that is one thing that we're noticing, is that, if you support the project, you're really not going to say anything because you think it's a done deal. Well, that's not the case necessarily. So just keep that in mind. We always want to support our top priorities, or at least support certain things about it, and then give your comments about something you may not support. So thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Georgiana. Next up is Space Coast Area Transit.
Good afternoon. Just a few things. Ridership totals, October saw a very slight increase from October of last year, but only by a few hundred passengers. Wasn't much to mention there. Fiscal year passengers ended up to be $1,867,757, which is an increase of 3% over the last fiscal year of 2024. Looking ahead early next year, we're going to begin the annual update to the Transportation Development Plan. TDP gets annual updates every 4 years, preceding our next major update, which is every 5 years. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Jim?
Adam Cole at District 1. I wanted to publicly thank Jim for answering my question in an expeditious manner several months ago. And I didn't have a chance to say something earlier, but I wanted to make a public statement today. Thank you, Jim.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Greg?
Yeah, hey, Jim, just.
Sorry.
Real quick, here in the last year, you also put online a few hybrid buses.
Yes.
Yeah, how are those working out for you?
I really don't have any.
No.
Yeah, I don't have any information on that. The only thing I can think of is maybe some trees that need to be trimmed because of the higher
The extra
top.
height?
Yeah.
The garbage trucks haven't taken care of that for you?
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's my only concern.
Okay. Hey, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Next up is Transportation Disadvantage Local Coordinating Board. Good morning.
Good morning. Patty Rendon, Transportation Planner, SCTPO. The TDLCB met on November 17th with the annual public hearing taking place following adjournment of the regular meeting. Highlights of the meeting include approval of the annual review of the grievance procedures, the rate calculation model for the 2025-2026 state fiscal year, and annual operating report, and also the annual elections of the vice chair and grievance subcommittee were also held. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Patty. Any questions?
Any question? No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public engagement report.
Mr. Chair, the public engagement report is in your package, and in the interest of time, we will skip that presentation.
Understood. Local government report.
Yeah, Greg?
Yeah, real quick, before everybody leaves, I did want to make a quick shameless plug, transportation report in miniature. Just so y'all know, I have some flyers out on the table. Every Saturday in December here, Florida East Coast Railway Society, we have a train layout up. We have the kids come in, run some trains, and then I can also brief on the latest and greatest that I know of with the Florida East Coast Railway, Brightline, etc. So that's always fun trains for Christmas. That's the end of my, yeah, should have brought my whistle.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
End of my shameless plug.
Anything else? Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Okay, before you leave, folks, I just want to tell everybody, have a happy holidays, have a happy and safe new year, and we'll see you all next year on February 9th.
And please turn in that form either to myself or there's a black box in the front or a staff member. Thank you.